Our next panel discussion is about women disrupting business. And to moderate the conversation, please welcome back to the stage CNN Nina Dos Santos.
Let me invite our 4 very accomplished women to the stage, and in a second's time I'll be explaining to you who they are. Many of you will have met these ladies and how they're going to be helping us to tackle the topic at hand. Thank you very much for joining us today. So, women disrupting business. Women obviously disrupt business in many ways. As we know, there's been steadily, up until recently I might say, an increase in the number of women on board seats, but that started to stagnate. As of events overnight with the California primaries, it seems as though finally we do have a woman in the running for the White House, the most senior political job anywhere in the world, but where I come from in the UK, well, again, it's still a challenge getting women into the upper echelons of politics. But all the while, despite the fact that perhaps women may be stagnating or shunning very established business positions, they are creating their own companies at lightning speed. And that's where we're going to be talking about how women are disrupting the business world, how they're managing to achieve what they want, what's the cost-benefit relationship, yet again, dare I say, between work-life balance, having a family, having a job that you really like, can you have it all? And what does success mean? What can we learn here from these entrepreneurs that can translate into really big business? So let's start out over here from my left. As you can see, there is Mariella Alma, the CEO and co-founder of Reevalue, which is a data analytics firm based in New York City and also London, which helps companies think about the long term. So that buzzword, sustainability, which also includes gender parity, that is the field she's working in. Katrina Campbell, who many of you in this room know quite well, the founder of EY Seren, a digital creative agency. We also have Rosaline Blair, who's the founder and CEO of Alexander Mann Solutions, a talent company. Rosaline's very active in various charities like the Prince's Trust. You also won a number of business awards, like the Veuve Clicquot Businesswoman of the Year award back in, I think, 2007 it was. And last but not least, Sara Roversi, the co-founder of UCAN Group, which is a special platform, is the way I can describe it, an ecosystem for entrepreneurs in the food space, not just in Italy, but all over the world. If any of you are familiar with Bologna, I did some of my university in Italy. I'm intimately familiar with Bologna. It is the culinary capital of Italy. It is highly worth a visit. And it's wonderful to have somebody who's also in the business side of food from Bologna here to talk about these issues today. So, ladies, thank you very much for joining us. Let's start out with you, Mariella, partly because you're on the other end of the room, and I want to make sure you feel included here. I'm going to each ask our panelists to think about the issue at hand, women disrupting business. But you're a woman creating a company, disrupting the business world to a certain extent in a rather niche and new field. How do you think women can make a difference?
To me, women are excellent in connecting dots. And when I look at the discussion here about women, and also this discussion that has been taking place a long time in terms of sustainability and CSR, it's been siloed. So I felt compelled to set up Reevalue. I come from the nonprofit industry, so imagine me going out to investors.
Which can be quite female-heavy as well, can't it?
Yeah.
So how did you feel going to investors and saying, look, I come from the nonprofit industry, give me money, I want to make a difference here. And they might say, well, you know,
you're a woman, so you have to, prove yourself extra. Then you come from the nonprofit. That, there's a lot of things that can work against you. But I think as an entrepreneur, you have to embrace the pain. And when you feel the pain, there's always the passion. And for me, it was also partially frustration. And also the opportunity I saw in, CSR and sustainability. There's so much evidence now that these issues are actually meaningful, and that they can drive business forward in terms of both risk and opportunities. And there's lots of information out there now that can make that compelling case. So we started reframing it as emerging issues, starting to cut out all the buzzwords, CSR, sustainability, sometimes really not helpful, sometimes really it closes the doors in front of you. And then when you reframe the discussion, similar to maybe reframing the larger women discussion into diversity and inclusion, and just making it relate to the business case, and presenting that data objectively, all of a sudden you have a different audience. And I think that's really, really important, that decision makers, general counsel, the board of directors, the chief risk officer, these are the guys that need to know. These are the guys that can make the decision. And in the case of CSR and sustainability, for the longest time, it was stuck in the PR or communications team.
You said guys.
Sorry?
You said guys. These are the guys. One automatically thinks these are the guys and thinks they're men.
Guys, including women as well. But when I moved to New York City, I realized working for this nonprofit organization was a global standard-setting body. You talk about CSR, you talk about sustainability, and you realize that the guys and girls that should be involved, that can actually have impact, more impact, and that hold the wallets, are not part of the discussion. And then I made it my life game to make one friend at least every week outside of my comfort zone.
Right. Katrina, you're quite a force to be reckoned with in the digital creative space.
Yeah.
Tell us about your journey and how you've disrupted business. You're now part of the EY family. And where you think women are disrupting business from here.
So my journey started back in 1995. I started working in the digital field at a very early age. I had a pretty successful mentor in the CEO of Barclays, and I was helping him design the world's first digital bank. So great opportunity for a 20-something-year-old little lassie from Glasgow. It was in the right place at the right time, but I also think I had some of the qualities for my industry that have helped me be successful. So what I do is I'm a behavioral psychologist specializing in the field of human-computer interaction, understanding the human psyche, the mind, how it works, and the computer, and that interaction point between them. It's a bit like when your kids are having a fight or your parents are having an argument. I tended to be the one who'd be the in-between, help sort it out. Highly emotionally intelligent, and those are qualities that are absolutely brilliant for designing technology, understanding what it is consumers want from technology and making it work. So that intersection of psychology and computing has helped me be incredibly successful, and I built up a really large agency and sold it to EY in August. And now I'm helping EY around the world research, design, and measure experiences, be those digital or digital transformation strategies, with customers. And those customers tend to be 50% male, 50% female, from all walks of life, and we're designing with the user at the center of things. So my emotional intelligence and some of those things have helped me become successful personally. Where I think women, in general, are being disruptive, and where I think society is really taking advantage of digital media, is that women who choose to work now can work from anywhere. Okay, I'm not just talking about flexible working, I'm talking about the second economy. McKinsey reported a publication, and in it they said the second economy is absolutely imperative to the way that the world will work over the next 20 odd years. There are 10 million women selling items that they make at home, okay, on Amazon Marketplace, on Etsy, on Not in the High Street in the UK. They are choosing to have everything. They're choosing to have a career that fits that with their needs as entrepreneurs, and they're choosing to have that free time with their family, or however they choose to do that. So I think digital disruption, whether or not you want to go back into business and do what I've done and continue working all the way through, or you choose to do your own thing, I think it's making life really simple. I love that.
Rosaline, you started Alexander Mann Group, a talent agency, back in 1996. So on the one hand, you're an entrepreneur, and sometimes we were speaking before we came on stage, and you were saying you decided to found this company because you couldn't find the job that you wanted out there. Is that not right?
Well, no, it wasn't that I couldn't find a job that was out there. I actually thought back then I was completely unemployable, so I believed that actually the only way I was going to be successful was actually create my own environment to be successful in. And I believe that today, and I think that's no accident that today we have, in our organisation, we have just about 4,000 people, and 70% of the organisation is women at every level. Well, actually, my direct team is 50%, but a very diverse 50%. And I think it's because I created an environment that I didn't knowingly set out to create an organisation with 70% women, but I set out to create an organisation that I could be successful in. and that people could be the best that they could be within it. So when I reflect back, when I hear people talking about disruption, I think that really doesn't impact me because people are talking about technology disruption. But the reality is, when I started my business 20 years ago, I completely disrupted the traditional world of recruitment. And I think the reason that the business has sustained 20 years and will continue to go on is because I've never sat back. I've tried to create a culture where we constantly challenge the norm and enable people to challenge the organisations we work with to keep disrupting. So actually that nothing, so for me disruption isn't just about technology. For me disruption is about how we think about things, about how we engage with people, about how we create different workforces. So we should be constantly challenging ourselves to disrupt everything.
But you're in a really interesting position because on the one hand, yes, you're disrupted because you've created your own business, but you see the disruption in the workforce firsthand because those are your clients. So the people who are looking for jobs, or your clients who are companies who are seeking to recruit people, a lot of those people will be millennials as well. I mean, let's face it, none of us are. Yeah. You might be a millennial, Marielle, are you? I'm not a millennial, I'll be honest.
I'm a borderline millennial.
Borderline, right, that's the closest we're going to get. But some of the people who are on your books are millennials as well, and that changes the dynamic too. So where do you think the female disruptor is going to be? Yeah. Who is she today?
Well, I think two points on the millennium piece first. So one of the things that I'm just in the midst of introducing in our organisation, I've got a phenomenally talented board, but actually we're missing the millennium mindset. So actually we're just creating a shadow board, which will be a very diverse group of people, but all millenniums. So that, shadowing each of the roles to ensure that actually we really challenge ourselves in terms of the mindset of a millennium. And I think that will be empowering for our whole organisation. I think it's going to be incredibly uncomfortable, but also very empowering. But as I look at the organisations that we work with, all of the organisations that we work with today, they're all FTSE organisations, and every single one of them is grappling with the challenge of how do they transform into a digital organisation. That's the only conversation the C-suite want to have. So actually, I think
not getting more women on the board.
I would say that topic has evolved now to be. I think so. Still, diversity is clearly a huge issue for all organisations, and they're all grappling with it. But I would say of equal importance, and one, organisations won't exist if they don't transform and embrace technology. And that isn't just about embracing technology. Managers inside organisations need to be reprogrammed, retrained to be able to manage in that environment, because leading and managing in that environment is going to need totally new skills. And I think that's a huge opportunity for women. Because I think women, one of the competencies that could be incredibly important is collaboration skills, being inquisitive. So many things that women innately have are the skills that are going to be needed to be successful. And I think with the rise of digital and the rise of the recognition that one can work from anywhere in the world now, and the rise of the gig economy and the no job for life, actually, there's never been a better time for women to actually, grab the opportunity.
Yeah, which is what Katrina was saying before. Sarah, your business probably, I suppose, has a few more millennials on your books, don't you? In some of the businesses that you're invested in, you're creating a platform for investing in food entrepreneurs. And then at the same time, you've got this interesting dynamic in northern Italy where there's a lot of people who have agricultural businesses who are now leaving them to their daughters, not necessarily traditionally to the sons.
Oh, definitely, yes. Actually, we are seeing this phenomenon not only in Italy, where actually there are women that are focused on going back to the farm and take the tradition of the family. I think they have this deep sense of the legacy that they want to give. And actually, if we think about food I think is the primary form of cultural expression, is the first commodity. It connects everyone and it connects all the people. So I think that women have this kind of role of connectors that is pretty natural. Not only in northern Italy, and actually we are mainly focused in the global scene, but we are seeing this phenomenon all over, actually.
Tell us a bit about your business, because I did quite a bit of reading, and I have to confess, it seems to be spread over many, many different platforms, many different parts of the world. Just run us through what you do and how disruptive it is.
Yeah, actually, we started 13 years ago with my husband and me. It was not my husband. He became my husband after that. Actually, we started with a tech company, but then in 2005, we were pitching our idea to a VC in New York, and this guy told us, "You are Italian, you have to talk about food. Why are you trying to sell in pictures and technologies around pictures in 2005, where, you know, there were Facebook and all the new tools that we use every day that were popping up. And so we came back to Italy saying that actually, if we would love to diversify, food would be a good sector to work with. And we comes from Bologna, you know that we feel we are a little bit in the middle of the Italian food valley, and so we started working in food pretty naturally. Now inside the group there are 25 companies, and we still are investing in food in different kind of ways. So we are working in food services, food tech startups, we have an equity crowdfunding platform for food and several other activities. But actually everything started to grow a lot when we started thinking about the idea of building a platform that is a non-profit project, that is the Future Food Institute, and starting to talk about education. Because when we think about food entrepreneurs, I really feel that they are very responsible, because every choice that the food entrepreneur does every day can have direct impact on the health of the planet and on the health of the people. So,
do you find that the roles, though, in the food sector, ironically enough, even though it's something that we all feel very passionate about, the roles are quite defined? A woman may cook for the family, but the chef is often male in a restaurant. The farmer is often, I mean, I'm typecasting, but this has been the way it has been for generations. The farmer is often male. Is that changing?
A lot.
And how are companies like yours helping to crack the mold there? Because as you were saying before, you created this with your husband. That was a partnership. A partnership must have been the important seed here to grow this business.
Obviously, there are works that are pretty tough. If you think about the chefs, obviously you have to spend nights out of home, and it's a very tough job, as well as the farmer. But I'm seeing a lot of women going into this kind of job, and everything is changing, and it's changing so fast. I see that women now are running faster compared to the guys that are coming to us.
Let me come back to the whole panel and just ask you about quotas. This is something that I mentioned before. And I'll probably start out with you, Rosaline, because it's important for your business, because you're really at the forefront of this. Pro or against quotas?
Against.
Against. Why?
Because I really believe in a meritocracy. I think it's absolutely critical that actually we should employ the right person for the role. But I do believe that much more focus needs to, so I agree a lot with what Jacqueline said. I think there needs to be much more focus in ensuring that organisations who have the responsibility of identifying people for roles ensure that they have the richest pipeline and the richest shortlist that they possibly can. And they must be really challenged to seek out, because there is talent there, you've just got to seek it out. So I'm against quotas, but I really think we're still getting it really wrong today. So I think we do need to focus on the funnel and making sure that actually we're retaining people inside the funnel so they can come through.
Katrina, you're against quotas.
There's a system in the UK where half of your non-executives on a PLC board have to be female. And I think that's a really sad indictment of the way we run our businesses in the United Kingdom. In fact, it's so sad that about 10 recruitment agencies popped up overnight, all called various things with woman in the title, and I must have had about 100 phone calls. And I thought, I tick a box, I'm a woman. I tick another box and know something about digital that the board might not. And I thought, I could make an absolute killing. It's 45 grand per year for 1 day a month to sit as a non-exec in a PC board. And I thought, but actually I have no interest in the businesses whatsoever. I'm not right for them. I'm just getting this gig because actually they need to tick the box. And I think that's wrong. You need to get the right person for the job, regardless of creed or sex or race.
So you don't espouse the view that Jacqueline de Rojas was pointing out before, where she was saying there should be quotas for the shortlist, and
Exactly.
Yep. No?
And I agree with Jacqueline.
Oh, you agree?
No, I made that point earlier. I think Jacqueline was saying was absolutely right. I think there should be quotas for shortlist.
Katrina, do you agree with that point?
I don't even agree with that necessarily.
Oh, I think at least with a quota. Yeah, because I think it will challenge them to at least seek people out and think differently, and to because otherwise there's no accountability.
Right.
But I totally disagree with quotas per se in terms of numbers on boards. Got to be a meritocracy.
Mariella, what do you think of quotas? Good or bad?
I also think it depends on the type of organization. I would be in favor of quotas. until we have reached the stage of meritocracy, which I think is the ideal state. But now, having set up a business myself, and we've grown to 32 people in 2 years' time, it's so essential to always get the right person at the right moment. And if you mess up, that's not a good thing. So I think for small businesses, quotas would not be a good idea. But I think for larger organizations, you need something else to drive that change. And this is where I think regulation is helpful.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Sada?
I obviously am always focused to find the talent and actually obviously to let emerge meritocracy, but it's not so easy in bigger organization. And then another topic is thinking about the bigger variety of backgrounds and cultures within the team. So it's not just a matter of women and men, but also a matter of different backgrounds, different cultures. Actually, if I have to think to my team, I have people coming from all over the world, and that is, I think, the biggest value we have.
And this is a really important point, because in some countries in the world, and in some countries in Europe indeed, Italy versus the UK, female participation in the workforce varies greatly, doesn't it? So quotas would not necessarily be a good idea in a global business. Is that partly what you're saying, or would be a good idea?
Yeah, it's exactly that. In Italy, it's happening now because all the public company has to nominate at least the 50% of women in the board of directors. And obviously, this causes a kind of leveling up of the entire directors' environment in Italy. But you see sometimes that I've been awarded female that have not the right skills, let's say. And so sometimes it's good, but...
as Katrina was saying before, to a certain extent. We should talk about work-life balance, because I think almost everybody on this panel here probably struggles with work-life balance. Many of you have children. Let me ask you this. Katrina, you've got 3 kids, and you've managed to found a business. You've lived in Paris, I think. As you said, you started out your career in London, but you're from Scotland. You even commute from Scotland, I understand. I don't know how you do it. How do you get the work-life balance?
I don't struggle at all.
How do you do it?
So I don't know how many of you out there have partners who are supportive. But do you know something? I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't found one. And it's definitely been a partnership. So my husband has been incredibly supportive. When I started the business, nobody would fund me in the City of London. And I came home in tears, blistered feet, going, nobody wants to invest in my business, and it's a really good one. And he said, well, what do you think you're missing? You've got a great business idea. It's already profitable in a small way. Why aren't they investing? I said, it was because I'm on my own and I'm a woman and I just hate it. And he said, well, we'll beat them at their own game. So on his advice, I hired 2 male actors. And I walked around the city, and guess what? Within a day, £500,000 from 2 investors. So yes, I can honestly say, without the male support, I really would not be here. Any life partner support, I wouldn't be here. Now, the other area where I have support in my life is the reason I commute each week on a Tuesday morning from Edinburgh Airport down to London or over to Paris or whichever office I'm in at the time, is because I have moved to near where my parents live, and my mother is incredibly supportive. It's like the good old days where the grandparents helped raise the children, right? In a lot of cultures, that still happens. If I couldn't leave my children with someone like a great nanny or a great grandmother like they have, again, I wouldn't be here. So for me, it's all about the support network. I do not find it hard, and I don't find it hard having a great work-life balance. As Billy, my colleague in the audience, will tell you, it's been relatively easy. The hard bit was raising the money. The easy bit has been running the company with all that great support. So I have to say, it's not just me on my own. There's a big network out there helping me.
Well, this is part of Sheryl Sandberg's thesis also in Lean In, isn't it? Rosaline, that you've got to thank the partners that help you, but you can't really do it without the support of the partners.
But I think we're pretty, I'm very similar. I have a husband who's a saint who puts up with so much for me. And there's no way my business would be here if it hadn't been for him all through the last 20 years. But saying that, I know many amazing women who just don't have that support.
That's what I was going to ask.
And you know, and some of the circumstances that they work within, and some of the things that they put themselves through, it is really tough. And I think it's incumbent on leaders and incumbent on employers to try and actually create an environment where it isn't, by the way, about childcare. I think it has to be about much more focused on families and much more focused around, and families in its broadest sense, because so many of my employees today, and a lot of them actually are men, they now have got very significant caring responsibilities. So we've got a significant aging population. And I think if you have the focus much more around broader issues, and also just other, you know, if we think about the millennials, they also want to do something else with their life. So actually, it isn't all about the company. So creating environments where people can go off and do that additional course, or they're taking time because, you know, they're head of the netball, whatever it is, trying to create, instead of having a work-life balance, for me it's all about life balance.
Yeah.
And work is part of your life.
It's just part of it, and I think we just need to, you know, try and create an environment where you enable people to be the best that they can be, and they can bring them whole selves to work.
Sarah, is it fair to say that in our generation that idea of kids and career being mutually exclusive options in life is finally starting to change? Is that the sort of disruptive businesswoman today? If you can get over that, then, you know, you're in a much better place. Do you think so?
Yeah, definitely. I'm really
Are you personally over that?
I'm really lucky as well as they are. But there's another thing that I'm seeing now is in the new generation. Now I'm in touch with a lot of young entrepreneurs that are little girls with a lot of energy. They are looking they make their future, and they are struggling finding a partner. So now I'm so lucky because as well...
You mean not business partner? I'm taking
a life partner. A life partner, because they scare them. They scare them. Okay. It's true. Now young ladies are really running fast, and they struggle on finding a partner. I was so lucky because I met my husband while we were studying. We started a business, then we got married. I have my family support, and we work together. So we work for a common goal. So I travel a lot, but every time I'm away, he's at home saying, Mom is doing a great thing. He's not saying, okay, Mom is out and we are here alone. So we are both supportive and we work for the common goal. But I'm thinking about those young start-uppers, and I really see them really worried for their future, because the new generation of millennials, or the new generation, I think they are scared about women that are becoming powerful. But I don't know if you what would you think about that, but I really feel that.
Well, at the risk of raising a taboo subject, but one of the other big ones I see is actually women putting on, I'm sure this is completely taboo, but putting off having families. You know, and I'm always going and cross my fingers that HR don't hear me, but I'm always having the conversation and saying, look, what are you waiting for? Get on with it. You know, this, and I know, but I just think, you know, it's your life. Yeah. And I think that's a really big issue, and I don't think it's spoken about.
I'm so glad you raised that. I will, for the sake of disclosure, reveal that I had my first child 2 weeks before my 37th birthday, and feel exactly the same way as you. I think it's a very, very valid point. And Mariella, here today, we're talking about sort of the millennial business, well, women who are disrupting the business world. A lot of them will be millennials. Many of us assume that millennials want it all, feel that they can have it all. If there's any millennials in the audience, please raise your hand and put your point of view across. We've got a couple. Okay, let's take one point of view over there. There's a couple. Let's wait for some microphones to come through, and I'll just finish my point. We just assume that millennials sort of think, oh, I want kids, career. I can have it all. Why not? And quite right that people should think like that. But the big question I have is, can they? So I'll ask you that in a second and take a couple of points of view. Yes, go ahead.
My name is Sophie from Malaysia. On the point of a taboo subject, it is something that kind of feels like a cycle when I talk about it with my friends. Many of us are at different stages in our lives, although we are at the same age. There are those who have decided to get married, have their first child, whereas there are others who have said, I want to work on my first baby, which is my business, my career, and they fortunately have partners who have been very supportive of that choice. But at the same time, we understand there is a biological clock. And you go, do I freeze my eggs? What do I do? But fortunately, I think when it comes down to the support network that we have, there is less pressure, less stress from our parents, from those around us who we look up to, who mentor us, who say, you really should get on that bandwagon. It comes down to the personal choice. But at the same time, when I think about the way my parents did it, they were like, what are you waiting for? Because life, it should happen in tandem, not in stages. It should not be so linear. So while this is still a question, I think that we will debate on until the end of time, as more women enter top management, it will certainly be something that HR will have to contend with. But perhaps that's where there needs to be more of a flexible understanding of how policies should be put in place so that we don't feel that pressure.
Yep.
Because it comes down to whether or not, if we do leave the workforce, whether we can return feeling empowered. So I think that's what it comes down to.
Let's take another point of view. There was another point of view from somebody else who raised their hand, who's a millennial behind. Could you just raise your hand again if you did want to make a point? Oh, here we go. We've got one here. So just want to take your points of view.
So I actually sneak into millennialdom just. And one of the things that is really interesting for me is that I'm obviously very different from an 18, 19, 20-year-old millennial. And I was at an event a few weeks ago, and she had told me she was 27. A 27-year-old said that she felt that really the women problem had been solved. And yes, when she looked above her, she didn't see any senior women, but there were so many great women at her level, she couldn't believe that they weren't going to make it through. And my response was, come back to me in 3 years. And I think what is perhaps a little bit worrying, which what we don't talk about, is that it's not a generational thing, it is a societal thing.
Yeah,
and it is still the women who do the majority of the childcare, it's still women who do over 80% of household chores, and we don't address that, and we don't talk about actually not just how do we get women to change their attitudes to that, but how do we get men to change their attitudes to it?
But I think you made a brilliant point earlier, which is actually until we're having this conversation and 50% of the room is actually men that can be influenced by this, too often, I mean, I attend a lot of phenomenal events, very phenomenal women, but actually we need great men who, we talk about, I think somebody mentioned earlier, which I thought was a really good point about, actually it's not mentors women need, it's sponsors, and I passionately believe that. But actually, we need those sponsors in a room of key influencers because that's what will drive the change.
And they need to speak up when they do.
Yeah.
When they are proud fathers who take care of the kids, who help out, they need to speak up as good role models. Mariela, let me come back to you. So, as I was saying before, it's this issue of sort of kids' career, the time bomb, your career time bomb. You can hear people here in the audience are worried about it. What do you think?
I think it's super hard. So I'm the only child, only daughter, so my parents go, will we ever become grandparents? Or actually, they're turning it around and they say, we will probably never become grandparents. So now back to the millennials. So we have, I think 80% of the company is a millennial. And let me make one generalization about technology startups and millennials. They want either an office dog or they want me and JP, my co-founder and CFO, to have a baby. So that's an option. And our third co-founder is actually was our best man at the wedding. So in terms of what was said before about work-life balance, we decided for now not to have work-life balance because we love what we do. And what will happen will happen. But I think the support that we're getting from the staff, from the millennials, is that they're all very purpose-driven. So they want this to succeed. They care less about their monthly paycheck for now. It's about the experience. They're all connected. It's all like one big family. And I think we can also benefit from that.
Let's take some questions from the floor here. And also, please, if you want to make any points about what you've heard, you feel passionate about, there's a gentleman over there. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm François Tellier. I'm a partner in Montreal at EY. I have a question. We have a program in our office that's called Career Watch. It's watchies and watchers. The watchies that we look over are young women, and we're trying to bridge the gap between bringing up the women to the high positions in our firm. And we've been doing this for multiple years, and it's been a challenge to maintain that program in our firm for various reasons. But the question I have for you is, first of all, do you think such a program makes sense? And I'm a watcher, and a lot of conversations that I have with my protégés are about how they get help. Exactly the point that you were making earlier, and I'm a true believer that having grown through the pains myself of raising 3 children with a wife who has a career, we couldn't have gone through it without help around us, and sometimes it's expensive and you've got to pay for it, but it certainly has helped us get through. So one of the advice that I give to my watchies is make sure that you want this, and then get all the help you can and make it a priority, and obviously with flexibility between life and work, but getting the help is really something. And I found sometimes, like 15 years ago, when I was giving that advice to women, I had different reaction than I did today. Today, women, in my experience, seem much more open to this comment than 15 years ago. We actually got criticism for saying that, thankful enough that 10 years later, one person in particular came back to me and said I was right, so I felt better, but I felt pretty strong. So do you think that's proper advice for us to be giving that, and if not, what else is there?
Rosaline, you're in the talent. Sorry, Rosaline, you're in the talent space. So you have to advise companies on talent retention, and this is exactly the type of thing that probably comes up.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's always incredibly important to have initiatives like this inside organisations. But again, I think it's back to who the sponsors are. I think it's really important if you have women communities, women-led initiatives. Again, mentors are great, but you need senior sponsors whose responsibility it is to shout about those brilliant women and help, you're measuring those individuals in the organisation on the success of those women coming through the organisation, and it's very tangible and it's very measurable. So I think any initiative like that are brilliant, but I think there has to be a strong business, a measurable business outcome, because otherwise I think it's just lip service.
Katrina, I want to ask a question that's sort of borderline taboo, and it's something that you hear time and time again sometimes when I'm reporting on quotas and things like that. Male members of staff will say off the record, look, this is terrible because it feeds the assumption that women in our organisation are only getting the job because, I can't get that non-executive director position because I'm not a woman, for instance. This idea that if you have certain programs, certain preferential treatment for women, it feeds this sort of resentment. How do you make sure that's not the case?
I think it probably feeds inertia on both sides, male and female. I don't think it's particularly psychologically, I don't think it's beneficial for either party, to be honest. I think on your point, the watcher, I'm not sure I like the name watcher, by the way, sounds a bit voyeur. The watchee thing is, I don't necessarily think it's sufficient nowadays to have someone like a mentor in the organisation. I think organisations, back to Rosaline's point, need to actually change the way they work with millennials, with women, in order to retain that talent, right? Because, as you pointed out, they're not after the same thing. They're not after a job for life anymore. No. Neither side are, especially not millennials. What they're actually after, and you pointed out, was the experience. You said it was the experience of working with you that keeps them there. It's not the pay packet. And I've noticed that we work with a plethora of different companies. One of the companies we work with is Virgin. And Virgin Group, Richard Branson sat down with his staff, did a big survey, is what is it you want out of working for the Virgin brand? Okay. And most of the staff who were under the age of 30 said, it's about the holidays and the benefits, like the air miles and the travel and the perks and things like that, because actually we want to go on vacation more and we want to do experiences. I want to walk the Inca Trail before I'm 30. I want to go to Japan and spend a month in Tokyo. I want to do this, I want to do that. It wasn't about the money. So what he's now done is he has effectively, and it was in all the press, he's banned holidays for part of his group. He said, there's no such thing as a holiday. Okay, the government makes me give you 25 days a year, but actually you can go to your HR director and you can say, I'm working on this project. I will get it to market faster by working weekends, by working late, if you give me a month's paid leave in addition to my normal holidays. And that is working like a dream. There's also another startup, a tech startup in London in the financial services sector who have banned holidays. Their staff can get up to 3 months paid leave because it's cheaper to do that than it is for the person to resign and then re-recruit someone and get them up to speed. Okay? They're getting products to market faster. I think It's about engaging with that new spirit, if you like,
And
of
trust.
what people are after.
Trust
I
as
agree.
well. Trust is the other big
It's
one.
all about staff retention at the end of the day, right? And getting the women to the top, you need to be a bit more flexible.
But isn't the flip side of that argument that many women here today, many of you women on the panels, because I've been reading your biographies in preparation of this, you've had rather slightly unorthodox paths to where you've come. For instance, you, Rosaline, as you were just saying before, you started your company because you thought nobody would hire you. This is a very different world to today's millennials, where in many cases the CV reads Stanford, MBA. Apologies to anyone in the room who has a wonderful Stanford MBA, but you know what I mean. Many CVs are quite similar. Is it a question of women, should be proud of their unorthodox path to the top? Because you learn life lessons on your way up if you do take an unorthodox path. What do you think, Katrina?
I think you should be proud of all of your achievements, good and bad, because even my failures have made me learn. My mum's 70, nearly 70, and she's opening a cake shop. She was on a series last year called The Great British Bake Off on telly, and she's had this little career as TV fame thing, and now she's gone and opened a cake shop, and you're like, really? At 70? Yeah, this is amazing. I mean, she's a chartered accountant. What the hell is she doing baking cakes for a living? I think you should just embrace everything along your career, and I certainly have done that. I've had some weird meetings, some wacky things have happened to me, but I've embraced every single one of them, and it's been great fun.
And Sarah, in your space, you're meeting a lot of entrepreneurs who are female potential entrepreneurs you're helping to support. You look at yourself, you look at your younger self maybe in them. What's your advice to them? Do they have to do things sort of the tried and tested way to attract, for instance, venture capital money and various other sort of rites of passage, if you like, if you're starting up a business?
Yeah, I actually suggest every time to all the people that are around us to think about, obviously, innovation as a collaborative effort, a cooperative effort. So the idea of being open to find the right skills around them and to build a team, to be the point of references, the cornerstone of the team. So I try to mentor every time all the young entrepreneurs around us and obviously the people involved in our ecosystem to work on that. So being the connector.
You want to make a point?
Yeah, I think just on your point, I think there's two very different things here, and I'm not sure we've really addressed it. One, I think, is the corporate woman. And I think I would agree that we're seeing a lot of very similar CVs, very similar backgrounds. And actually, it's not that we're seeing them. I think organisations are screening out. So unfortunately, they're screening out people who've actually got emotional intelligence, personalities. They did courageous things, but actually they get screened out. So actually, you don't get to see. Will that change,
though? Are we going to get to a sort of biting point where you think that might change?
I don't think it's going to change. From what I'm seeing, it's not changing fast enough. But I think that leaves the door open then for women who are different. There's never been not an easier time, but if I think about technology today versus when I started 20 years ago, and I coach and mentor a lot of startup women, and I invest in startup women, the barriers to entry are so low now to starting businesses, and the best women that I see being successful are those who've actually, I feel, if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying hard enough. So actually, they're the ones who have made mistakes. They're the ones who actually got some life experience behind them. They're the ones who are that bit different. That can take a few knocks. They actually are more interesting. But the point I was going to get to is I think one of the statistics, you mentioned at the beginning about the fact that there's more women starting businesses than ever before. There is, but the statistic is still the same, that actually a third of women still break the ceiling of 1 million revenue businesses. And there's still too many women starting businesses. And some of it is they just don't have an ambition to do more, they don't dream big, and that's fine, that's great. But actually, there's lots of others who are still being held back. So I think there's as much of the same glass ceiling for entrepreneurial women as there is within corporates.
Mariella, what do you think about the glass ceiling and the sort of need for to have if you don't make the mistakes, you're not trying hard enough, as Rosaline was just saying?
No, I think there's only one way, and you just have to jump in, and confidence will grow over time. When you start a company, it's very personal because it's just you. It's you and your idea, and maybe a couple of people.
A couple of actors.
Exactly. You hire some actors, or you bring your husband from Wall Street. But that's totally right. But you have to.
Did you find any? Did you relate to Katrina's story there? Did you ever find when you were sort of? You mentioned before that you entered the, asking for money from backers, and you entered the conversations. They say a non-profit.
Yeah.
So I assume you're cuddly, if you know what I mean.
I did two things there. So on the one hand, I said, the nonprofit environment, this global organization, it really allowed me to build relationships without wanting something from them. So we were giving out stuff. So that sometimes worked. And another times I would say, husband, best man, can you say the following things, and it will work.
How did you feel about that? Did you feel slightly uncomfortable?
Of course. That's not how it should be. But then again, I think with the startup, with starting a company, what's really key is being able to adapt and also not to take yourself so seriously. So you cannot be, your ego cannot be part of it. It has to be about the idea. It has to be about how you make that idea happen. And then it will start to, you will start to surround yourselves with people that can help you. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right, now we're out of time, but I'm sure that you each will want to have a few words when we have coffee break with these ladies here later on. I want to just wrap things up by asking for your advice, each one of you, to the women who are here today when it comes to sort of disrupting business, who the disruptive businesswoman of the future is, and how things will change. So starting out with you, Mariella.
I think my main advice would be is that the time is now. So any woman having an idea for a business, there will never be a better time than now to do it. So once you are inspired, when you have the idea, go ahead, go and grab it. Things will happen.
Katrina?
Gosh, I'm not sure what I can give this esteemed audience in terms of advice, except for the fact that I've really enjoyed every single minute of starting up a business and selling it, and now continue to work, and I hope to do so until the day I pop my clogs and die. Enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's hard to add to both of you, but I think I would just say challenge the norm, be brave, and just go for it.
I would say embrace the challenges, because this is the right time where you can think that you can make impacts, and so embrace challenge is the first thing that I would suggest.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And that's been a very stimulating debate, as you can know. And hopefully in a few years from now, we'll be back to discuss where the women disrupting business will go from here. Thank you very much.